The conversation ended 3 hours ago. Maybe it was a quick chat with a coworker. Maybe a text exchange with a friend. Maybe something as simple as ordering coffee and saying one extra sentence you did not plan to say. And now, 3 hours later, you are lying in bed replaying it. Word by word, tone by tone, trying to figure out if what you said landed wrong. If they took it the wrong way. If you came across as too much, or not enough, or just slightly off in a way you cannot quite name. The conversation is over. Everyone else has moved on. But your brain is just getting started. And here is the part nobody tells you. There is a very specific psychological reason this happens. And it has nothing to do with being weak or insecure or broken. It goes much deeper than that. Let us start with something most people assume about overthinkers. The assumption is that they think too much because they care too much. And while that is partially true, it completely misses the real mechanism underneath. Overthinkers do not just replay conversations because they are sensitive. They replay them because their brain has learned, somewhere along the way, that social situations are unpredictable. And unpredictable things are dangerous. So the brain does what it always does with danger. It tries to solve it. The problem is that a conversation that already happened cannot be solved. It is fixed. Done. The words have been said, the moment has passed, and no amount of mental reprocessing will change the outcome. But your brain does not fully accept that. It keeps running the simulation anyway, searching for the variable it missed, looking for the moment where things could have gone differently. This is not weakness. This is your brain's threat detection system working exactly as designed, just pointed at the wrong target. Psychologists call this post-event processing. It is a pattern that shows up consistently in people with high social sensitivity, and it works like this. After a social interaction, instead of filing the experience away and moving forward, the brain opens a review process. It pulls up the memory, examines it from multiple angles, assigns meaning to every pause and facial expression and word choice, and then, crucially, tends to interpret ambiguous moments in the most negative direction possible. That slight hesitation before they answered. The fact that they did not laugh at what you said. The way the conversation ended just a little abruptly. Your brain takes all of those ambiguous signals and fills them with the worst possible interpretation. And the reason it defaults to negative? That is actually evolutionary. A brain that assumed everything was fine and got it wrong paid a much steeper social price than a brain that assumed something was off and got it wrong. In a world where social rejection could mean literal survival consequences, erring on the side of worry was the smarter strategy. Your overthinking brain is not malfunctioning. It is running ancient software in a modern world. But here is where it gets interesting. Because there is a second layer to this that most people never reach. Overthinkers are not just replaying conversations to detect danger. They are also, on some level, trying to maintain control. Think about it. The conversation is over, and that means the outcome is out of your hands. You cannot go back and say it better. You cannot add context or soften a word or read the room differently. That loss of control, for a certain type of mind, is deeply uncomfortable. So the brain creates the illusion of control through analysis. If I replay it enough times, maybe I will understand it completely. If I understand it completely, maybe I will feel safe. The overthinking is not random. It is a coping strategy for the discomfort of uncertainty. If this is starting to sound familiar, if you are nodding along and thinking yes, this is exactly what happens in my head, consider subscribing to Psyche Simplified. New video every week at 6 p.m. And every single one is built around helping you understand the parts of your mind that nobody else explains. Now here is what most people completely miss about overthinkers. And this is the part that changes everything. The people who replay conversations the most are almost always the people who are most attuned to others. They notice things. Subtle things. The slight shift in someone's tone. The pause that lasted half a second too long. The word someone chose instead of a different word they usually use. Most people do not even register these signals consciously. Overthinkers register all of them, and then spend hours trying to decode what they mean. This is not a flaw in perception. It is actually an extremely high level of social intelligence. The problem is not that they notice too much. The problem is what their brain does with what it notices. Instead of using that information to connect more deeply, the brain turns it inward. It becomes evidence in a case being built against themselves. They said something wrong. They read the room incorrectly. They were too much or not enough. The same sensitivity that makes overthinkers remarkably good at understanding people becomes the thing that quietly dismantles their confidence after every interaction. Let us talk about what this actually feels like from the inside. Because it is exhausting in a way that is hard to describe to someone who does not experience it. It is not just the replaying. It is the weight of it. The way a 15-minute conversation can take up 3 hours of mental space. The way you can be physically present in a completely different situation, eating dinner, trying to sleep, sitting in a meeting, and still be partially inside that earlier conversation, turning it over, looking for the thing you missed. Overthinkers are rarely fully present. Part of their mind is almost always somewhere else, auditing the past or rehearsing the future. And the rehearsing is its own phenomenon. Because overthinkers do not just replay, they pre-live. Before a difficult conversation, they run through every possible version of it. Every response. Every reaction. Every way it could go wrong. By the time the actual conversation happens, they have already lived through 20 versions of it, most of them bad. So they arrive already tired. Already braced. And that bracing often changes how they show up, which then gives them more material to replay afterward. It is a loop. A genuinely exhausting, self-reinforcing loop. But here's the reframe I want to offer you. And I want you to sit with this, because it matters. The fact that you replay conversations does not mean something is wrong with you. It means you care about how you affect the people around you. It means you are paying attention in a world that increasingly rewards not paying attention. It means you hold yourself to a standard of social awareness that most people never even attempt. That is not a liability. That is, in many ways, a form of integrity. The issue is not the caring. The issue is the direction the caring goes. When all of that attentiveness turns inward and becomes self-criticism, it stops being useful and starts being painful. The goal is not to stop noticing. The goal is to redirect what you do with what you notice. One practical reframe that researchers in this space consistently find helpful is what they call the "would I judge a friend" test. When you catch yourself replaying a conversation and building a case for why you handled it wrong, stop. And ask yourself whether you would dissect a close friend's behavior with the same level of scrutiny. Whether you would replay their words and assign them the same worst-case meaning. Almost universally, the answer is no. We extend enormous grace to the people we love. We interpret their ambiguous moments generously. We give them the benefit of the doubt without even thinking about it. Overthinkers simply forget to extend that same grace to themselves. You are allowed to have said something imperfectly. You are allowed to have paused too long or laughed at the wrong moment, or ended a conversation slightly awkwardly. These are not failures of character. They are the ordinary texture of human interaction. And the people on the other side of those conversations are far less focused on your imperfections than your brain is insisting they are. Here's the last thought I want to leave you with. The conversations your brain keeps returning to are not evidence of what you did wrong. They are evidence of how much you care about doing right. And that impulse, to be thoughtful, to be considered, to show up well for the people in your life, is worth keeping. It just does not need to cost you your peace. If you recognized yourself anywhere in this video, drop a comment below. Tell me, what is the most recent conversation you could not stop replaying? I read every single comment. And if understanding your mind like this feels useful, feels like something you want more of, subscribe to Psyche Simplified. New video every week. I will see you in the next one.